Hey there guys, welcome back to the Multiplying Disciples channel and the Multiplier series, in which we're looking at what it will take to be a multiplier and how Jesus modeled this. Before we jump into this topic today on scheduling your priorities, I want to invite you to subscribe to the channel, to ring that bell so that you get notifications in your inbox, and also check out the description below this video. I'm going to begin to post these videos in other places because of increasing censorship, and you just never know how long things are going to be on YouTube. So for now, it's on YouTube, but check out those other platforms. Please subscribe there so that you get this content there as well. All right, so let's jump into this topic of scheduling your priorities. And so to be a multiplier, to see multiplication happen in the kingdom, means that we are focused on some really key things. So more than just planning our schedule, meaning how do we arrange all the activities or the opportunities that we have in our week with work and family and all those other things. That is challenging. But if we're going to see multiplication, it's absolutely critical that we get those big rocks in place of priorities. Now, some are obvious, and we're going to all be on the same page of abiding or prayer happening every day of the week and as a normal part of our life. And so much so that this is when I do that in the beginning of my days. I just put that down on this schedule already. It's inked in. That's going to happen every day of the week. But the question from there begins to become, what high value activities do I need to be doing for the stage of the work that I'm in order to see multiplication begin to happen? That's going to change over time as God begins to move. But as we get sort of a baseline of what are the high value activities we should be engaging in to begin to see multiplication, we're going to start here with these sticky notes. Now, this is literally what my wife and I do to plan our week. We actually use sticky notes, and we've got a whiteboard, so a larger version of this. But we sit down once a week, and usually it's on Saturdays in the afternoon, and we'll sit down and we will move our sticky notes around. And the idea being that these big rocks are the high value activities that we see in the life of Jesus in the New Testament that disciples, apostles modeled as being absolutely critical activities that have got to be happening somewhere in our week to week as a part of the DNA of the lifestyle we're living out if we're going to see multiplication happen. So they're on a sticky note, meaning that sticky note's got to have a box somewhere. Now, I'll speak to that for just a second. This isn't broken down to just timelines, but actually big boxes of morning, afternoon, evening. This is called block scheduling. Now, you can look up on YouTube block scheduling, and that might be helpful for you. But the idea is that you're choosing an activity to get done during a block or a series of activities during a block versus trying to just schedule out everything minute to minute or even 15-minute increments. What are the big things that you want to get done during those blocks? And then things may come up or things may adjust, but you're going to commit to getting those big blocks, those big activities done during those blocks. And so for this time today, we're looking at these high value activities of harvest. We've got a couple of hours of harvest. 139, or the pouring deeply into the few in a 3/3 intentional group gathering, and also in a more relational way. We've also got this player-coach relationship where we are receiving coaching in Timothy setting, where we're getting coaching from somebody who's farther along the journey. We're also coaching others. Now, this is differentiated from the 139. I'll share that in a little bit. And we've also got some church rhythms. So we're gathering with our church regularly, and we're also praying corporately in a regular gathering with them. And then on the relational side of family health, we've got a date night planned here if you're married, and then also a Sabbath time. That's absolutely critical. And so much so I'm going to start with that. And for us, that goes right here. And then we begin to plan from there. So that big rock is going to go in place. So I'll also pull up the date night one. And that one for us is usually on Thursday night. So I'll put that one in on that day of the week. Okay, so from there, I'm going to put in these other squares, what they look like for us. So usually when you're engaging in the beginning of engaging in these high value activities, you've got to have harvest time happening. And I broke it up into 2 separate hour blocks. Really, it's best to spread this out if possible. If you can only do 1 2-hour block, that's okay. But we found that it's best to split it up, and I'll share that why in just a second. And so for us, we oftentimes will do a harvest time in the afternoon on Wednesdays. And then I've also got a harvest time on Fridays for us. And so you're going to be out in the harvest sharing the gospel and inviting along other disciples that you might have in that process. And then for those who are co-vocational or have a job that you're working during the day, these might not be possible to be in the afternoon. Maybe this is all going to be on the weekend and the evenings for you. But what happens is this harvest time begins to be replaced with discipleship. So as you begin to see traction in the harvest, you're going to take this 139 block, and that harvest time is going to begin to become a new 3/3 group that you're starting. And so you're going to want to continue to engage in the harvest. That's why I've got a separate block for that one right there. But this time block here for harvest becomes slowing down to focus on the few. So another key component to seeing that 3/3 group multiply is a relational time with those disciples. So after you've filtered for and you begin to find those faithful few to pour into, you're going to begin to invest in them relationally as well. So you might invite them over in the evening to hang out, or hang out after you've engaged in the 3/3 group for a relational time that's just open-ended, and you're able to connect. And relationship is really key for seeing those disciples multiply along with the structured time. Another key component is that you're going to actually be a part of a church. So as a leader, you want to be involved in a church gathering. So ours is on Friday nights. That's when we have our 3/3 groups on Friday nights. Many times people will put that on a Sunday morning as a part of replacing what's happening in a legacy church in the Western context. For us, that fits on a Friday night, but just know that that big rock needs to go in there somewhere, that you're a part of a church and you're starting a church. Okay, and so then also we have a time of church prayer. So we are gathering together to pray for the harvest as a church. And so we gather with other believers on Monday nights. That's when we have our harvest prayer, we call it, to pray corporately into what God is doing in the harvest. So oftentimes this is an on-ramp for those who are not as evangelistic. Prayer is a common way that many can engage and begin to get the Father's heart for what he's doing in the harvest. Okay, so now let's add in the Timothy trainings. So Timothy training, you're going to be receiving training from somebody. That's pretty key and pretty critical. And so mine happens on Wednesdays afternoons along with the 3/3 group here. So I'm going to double those up. And then also you are going to be engaging in coaching others. So you're also going to, as you begin to see those emerge from the harvest, that you're helping lead a group. You want to have a set aside time to do leadership development with them, where you're taking them through some leadership development tools in which they are doing some 4-field studies of the Gospels, of the book of Acts, in which they're beginning to coach into some challenges that might come up in their church groups through the epistles. This is a really critical key time with your faithful few. You don't want this group to be too big, just a few, but it's critical that you've got that coaching role with those leaders. So this begins to outline for us some high-value activities that begin to go in place as the foundation for our weekly planning. And then in our house, we begin to plan all these other blocks, and on our whiteboard, we'll write in other things that are happening. We might be meeting with somebody. We might have other things planned in our week, a family day, those kinds of things. But this helps us get a starting place every week in a practical way for us to make sure that we're scheduling our priorities and we're getting in those high value activities that are going to lead to multiplying movement before we add anything else to our week. So I hope that's helpful, guys, and make sure that you take some time to do this. So I just want to challenge you with that, to sit down with a piece of paper and begin to draw out a grid like this, or use it on your own whiteboard and get your own sticky notes and begin to fill this in, and do this together with your family, and make sure that you're emphasizing and prioritizing the most important things for seeing multiplying movement happen through your lifestyle as a family.